Everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. On a Friday, we get together and we have a look at the top 5 something normally to do with Blood Bowl. Now, this week is a little bit different, but spoiler alert, you're gonna see Blood Bowl on this list. So, a couple of things made me think about this list. One is obviously everything that's going on in the economy at the moment. I think we chatted about this in our Discord a little while ago, and I made a joke like the price increases that are going to happen in the gaming community are going to mean we're actually going to have to just use all the stuff we've already got. Fair enough. Now, the reason this kind of brought me to this is because I read an article about the prices from Catalyst Games the other day, and they were talking about how, like, what's going on. I don't track it very close because there's not a lot I can do about it, but they're just saying that the cost of products is going to increase exponentially, and that made me think we're not going to be able to buy as much. So, you know, it made me kind of think we're just going to have to use what we've got. And that got me thinking to the second thing, which is when I was younger, when I was a kid, back in the day, back in the 90s, when TV was good, we didn't, you know, me, Ian, Craig, whatever, we didn't get a lot of new Warhammer. Like, you kind of just really used what you had over and over and over again. You played the games and games and games. You did building for terrain, you did campaigns, you did stories. You kind of made what you had really great. And that got me thinking, okay, if we're looking at this now, we've got an opportunity to kind of maximize what we've got for gaming, and it got me thinking about the top 5 replayable games. What games will get you playing? What games will get you planning? What games will get you painting over and over and over again? Coming in at number 5, this is an interesting one. So I spoke to Ben and the guys about this, and kind of like, right, I need some, what do you think? And Ben is an avid RPG player. Ben loves his RPGs. I don't think he gets much time to play them, but he loves planning them. And that's fair enough. Now, I've not gone with RPG myself. I have gone with a dungeon crawler. And I've used Dungeon Saga as my example for the dungeon crawler of choice here. But it can be whichever one you want. It can be Heroescape. Now, a lot of these dungeon crawlers these days have got like AI, not AI. They've got, yeah, AI, but not like the large learning mod. It's the like actual, there's an AI component that plays the bad guys. Dungeon Saga is one of those. Like, there's an app, I think there's an app or a website, and you can play cooperative against the computer. And I think Descent did the same thing. So, like, you can pick this up, you can pick a game up like this, and you've got all your models. You've got models you can paint, and you've got bad guys you can paint up, and you can get little expansions, which is totally cool. You've got dungeons that you can build, you can spend your time building and stuff like that. But from a gameplay point of view, immediately you've got a co-op or a solo thing that you can play through. Now, I think these guys have got, what, 3 or 4 expansions for this as well. So, like, you can just get the box and just play hours and hours and hours without having to stretch beyond the game itself. But that's the bit that I think gets really fun. And this is why it's like, this is like any RPG and any dungeon crawler. Because when I was a kid, we had Hero Quest, and I'm confident that we had no idea how to play Hero Quest. There was also Warhammer Quest, although I don't think I ever actually got my hands on it. You build your own modules. You get some more bad guys. You find some more monsters. You chuck them in the dungeon. You do stuff. You house rule. You play. You can make cardboard terrain. You can build stuff. Like, a dungeon crawler is a really good place to start. If you've got a dungeon crawler and nothing else, I guarantee you are going to have hours and hours and hours of entertainment, whether you've got someone to play with or not. Number 4, it is Battletech. So, Battletech is a big old game about big old mechs playing on a small board. And it is, have we got any good pictures here? What's the battle shop? It's exciting. Ooh, here we go. I don't want to subscribe to the newsletter, but thank you very much. Battletech beginner box. Here we go. So Battletech is on this list because there is a couple of really interesting things about it. One is the price to entry let's just bounce over to this, is very low for Battletech. Now there's a beginner box which is like $20, but there's a bigger beginner box which is $50, and you get like 4 or 8 mechs, and you get the pitches, Blood Bowler here, you get the play mats, and you get the full rules. And when it comes to Battletech, the thing that makes it so replayable is you've got full rules for customizing all of your mechs. So you can spend all your time brewing up mech designs, having different battles, using the other side. I mean, most of these pitches are double-sided with different terrain layouts. You've got different bits of terrain that you can chuck on. So not only have you got the hobby aspect there where you're building and painting your mechs, but you've got the game outside of the game as well, which I think is so important. When you've got a game you want to be playing again and again and again, you want to have that scheme. It's like deck building, right? Okay, I'm going to put this gun on him, I'm going to give him these heat sinks, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make him this fast, this tough. You don't need a lot to be able to play bunches and bunches of games and have them play out differently. I think for me that's the most important thing here, is that Battletech, you've got a low price to entry, but you can play a game and a game and a game, and they will be very, very different without you having to buy any more models, without you having to paint anything, without you having to do anything different. It's a board game first and foremost. So you put the board, you change the board, you change the rules you're using for your mechs, and you have just got almost infinite amount of battles. And I think that is very, very, very cool. And the other thing for me, and this is where it gets a bit scary, is these guys are the ones who wrote the article about, like, buckle up kiddos, because prices might go up. Battletech is really cheap to get into, and they've got Battletech Gothic coming, which is like this weird alternate version of Battletech, which is just kind of gothic-y and spiky and horror-y, and there's like gene spliced monsters and big old chunky stompy robots. It's very cool, and I personally am very excited about this landing. And you know, look at this is a starter box, so I think in Catalyst games you're probably looking about £50–60 for this. You go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 mechs. You're playing a game with 3 mechs, 4 mechs, you can alternate the teams, you can see there's just a ton of battles you can do. And this is the other thing here, is that not only is there one Battletech universe, but they're about to drop a second alternate one. So if you're playing with your battle mechs, you can kind of go here and play a very similar game with a different vibe. So that's it. For me, number 4, Battletech. Number 3. Let's do the M. It is Munda, Necro of the Munda. Now, Necromunda has a very special place in my heart. The 1995 box set was potentially the best box set for miniature gamers of all time. You got 2 gangs with a bunch of different weapons, and you got a whole bunch of cardboard terrain. In fact, I'm going to bring up a picture of it because it was fantastic. And we played hours and days of this game. You just kept on playing. There it is. That is just an absolute thing of flipping beauty. I'm going to bounce this over here. Oof, look at this. Low pixels as of the time. Right, this was the starter set back then. The starter set these days is not quite as good, but it doesn't matter. The point of this, and the reason Necromunda is on this list, is when it comes to playing a game repeatedly, you've got 2 incredible aspects with Necromunda. One, you've got a fully fledged campaign system, which means if you've got a gang, you don't really need another gang. You don't really need any other models. If you've got a gang, then you play 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Necromunda games using the same models. Maybe you get to paint up another one. The cool thing about these is one of these boxes gets you probably more men than you're going to use anyway. So you kind of get to add to your thing. But you build stories on and in the game where your guy gets injured, he gets a new gun, they level up. You build this story around your characters, which makes it so replayable. You cannot wait to see the next episode. You cannot wait to see what happens next to your gangers. And the second bit, which was interesting because Ben flagged up and he was like, the buy-in is quite brutal on Necromunda. And it got me thinking, because actually, yeah, if you went and bought all the Games Workshop terrain for Necromunda, it is a chunky and expensive thing to get into. But if we're thinking about a time where you don't want to be buying too much toys because the toys are about to cost more than toys should cost, Necromunda might be the perfect game for scratch building. You take Coke cans, you make pipes, you put straws, you just absolute for kit bashing of terrain. This is the best possible game for it. So this is why Munda is number 3, because you get one gang basically, your opponent gets another gang, and you can spend years just kit bashing and building Necromunda terrain out of absolute trash. And yeah, I mean, hours spent on building Necromunda terrain, very high for me. So number 3, Necromunda. Number 2, it's one-page rules. And this is the other thing that got me thinking about this list entirely. And I've described OPR as the most playable game I have ever come across. It makes you want to play. It makes you want to brew up a list. It makes you want to use these models that you've got lying around. It makes you want to print those STLs that you've had saved. It makes you want to build the box of stuff that you've had down there. It makes you want to go to the cupboard, go to your storage closet and get the models out that you have there. And that for me is just so valued. Like the value of that is massive. Like it's $5, I think, for all of their rule books. Their army list builder, Army Forge, is the best in the business. It is just unchallenged. Not only do they have a fantasy battle game and a sci-fi battle game, they've also got a sci-fi skirmish game and a fantasy skirmish game with campaign rules in there. Now, the campaign rules aren't as detailed as something like Necromunda or Mordheim, but they're there, so you can keep playing them. But the thing for me the reason OPR is so high on this list is because you can basically use whatever models you've already got. If you've got a Space Marine army and an it's my video. Nice. GG's, OPR. If you've got Space Marines and you've got Tomb Kings, technically you can play them against each other because it's the same rule set. Like, you might have to press the I believe button a bit, but the point is here, you play Blood Bowl, you play war games, you've probably got stuff in your cupboard, you've probably picked up a box, you could probably get your hands on some stuff. But it's not just like it provides you a great way to play with what you've already got. It really makes you think about, what can I get to play with this? Ooh, actually, I like the list for the Beastmen. That's pretty cool. I could get some Minotaurs. I've got some Minotaurs somewhere. I've got some STLs for Minotaurs. I can print them out. That'd be a really cool little battle force. Oh, actually, we're going to do a sci-fi skirmish. Yeah, no worries. Got a box of Terminators somewhere. We can probably make that work. The playableness of it is just exquisite. This game has got me painting armies. Wargame armies. I have never painted a wargame army in my life. And this has got me painting multiple wargame armies because the game is so easy and so fun and so accessible. It just makes you want to keep playing. So if there was one game that you only had a game you had to just to play, OPR would be it, because you can repurpose all the stuff you've got and it just fills all of those boxes. You're building fantasy, you're going to go custom build some trees and some hills and do all that. Sci-fi, you can build your Necromunda terrain and use OPR for that. Dungeon crawler, you can take all your bad guys and play a fantasy skirmish game. It is a wonderful mix, and it's just one of the most playable and replayable things I have ever come across. Except for this game. Now, this is a game you may not have heard of. Oh, it's not worked. What is it going to be? It's a game called Blood Bowl. Now, it's really interesting because I put it in a group chat and I was like, right, playable games. What are the games out there that you can just play and brew and build and plan? Blood Bowl was the first response I got. Because Blood Bowl it doesn't have terrain building, although you can build a stadium and a custom pitch. It doesn't have tanks or big monsters, although you can use a giant. It doesn't have reams and reams of soldiers, but that's a very good thing. But Blood Bowl has the most replayable rule set ever made by any gamer ever, I think. That includes miniatures. I don't need to sell you guys on Blood Bowl, but Blood Bowl is the #1 most replayable. If you've got a box of models and your opponent has a box of models and you've got a Blood Bowl pitch or a big bit of paper you can mark out the squares on, you can play a league. You can keep playing. You can play some sevens. If you've got a Blood Bowl pitch, you flip it over and use a pen and you mark it round. You've got a sevens pitch. You can play 3 games of sevens and then take those skills that you've earned. Then play an 11s game with just 2 teams. And if you are going to be in a place where your hobby budget is limited, you can't get a lot of stuff, Blood Bowl is the perfect thing for that. If you've got you and a friend, maybe your brother, maybe your sister, maybe your wife, you need 3-4 teams and you will be able to play an exponential amount of games, and each of those games will be different because your players will get hurt, they'll level up, you'll have more cash, you might be able to induce some fun stuff, you might be able to use the fancy pitch rules, you've got extra inducements, you've got wizards, there's so much stuff you can add to Blood Bowl and you don't need to buy a damn thing. But if you've got a 3D printer or a friend with the 3D printer, there are, I don't know, 4 billion teams out there that you can print. And most of it, because it's only 12 models for a Blood Bowl team, essentially, is 1 plate. Even on like a Mars 2 Pro, which is 4 or 5 years old now, it's just 1 print and you've got yourself a Blood Bowl team. Which means if I was going to be locked down for hobby and get to play 1 game with my friends repeatedly over and over and over again, without really getting the chance to buy much, guys, it's Blood Bowl. Sure, there's not a lot of guns, sure, there's not a lot of chainswords, but it is the best game. You get the best of all aspects when it comes to it. The gameplay, it's all in front of you. It's a puzzle, it's a nightmare, it's all of those things in one. The hobby aspect, you build a team. It's not just these guys are wearing army clothes. No. They're your team. They come from this random tiny town that loves the colour yellow and pink, and that's why they're yellow and pink, and it's bright because they're representing Froggledorf. And these are the Froggledorf fighters, and this is where they're going, and we're going to play some sevens, and then I'm going to boost up this, and I've got 1 other team. You've got the hobby aspect there, and you put them together and it's Blood Bowl. You play a campaign, you've got that narrative. My Froggledorf fighters with their pink and yellow scheme are going to play against your team, and we've got this puzzle and they're developing, and this guy Franzel Thrower Man is really good at throwing, and it's going to just develop, and that story is going to take care of you. Setting up is quick. You're going to play and play and play, and that is why Blood Bowl is the best game, I think, of all time. Mechanically, it may not be perfect. You may not be able to use Titans, but it does what it does, and it does it so well. So for me, #1 replayable game is Blood Bowl. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking!